Hey, what's up, people?
This is my 1 year review of the Puma Speed X47 Turbo, which is in my 2015 Fiesta ST, which you see here. So yeah, I've had this turbo in the car a year, and I'm about done with this car. This is probably the last video I'm going to do. Really happy with it, and I'm really happy with this turbo, but I thought it would be fitting to, 1 year later, 10,000, 11,000 miles on the turbo now, just go over, kind of some thoughts about it. So I've got other videos that talk about my mods and hardware and tune and all that. So if you're wondering about the wheels or suspension or power setup or whatever, check those out. I'll do a quick look at the car. I'm not going to do any driving, but I've got a lot of other clips that show pulls and stuff of the car. So yeah, so this is specifically concerning my my Puma Speed Turbo. And yeah, so reliability wise, it's been bulletproof. I've had no issues, no leaks, no boost leaks, no CELs, nothing. The car dynoed at 298 in 322, so that's all wheel. I'm sorry, that's wheel horsepower. I wish it was all wheel, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, 298 wheel horsepower. I've got a catted downpipe, so if I pulled that cat out, that would probably hop up over 300. But I'm happy. The car is a bullet. It's got 322 foot-pounds of torque. Out of the factory, these on a dyno, the crank horsepower is around 200. The wheel horsepower is around 170. So you're going from 170 to about 300. That's pretty significant. And before, and I've talked about this, I won't say much, but just the bottom line difference is before you had quite a bit of boost from 2,000 RPM to about 45, and then it died. Now with the hybrid turbo and tunes and all the upgrades, you've got more boost than before to that 45, and then at 45, where it used to die off, it actually begins pulling harder all the way to about 62, 6,300 RPM, and then it flatlines till about 72, which is the red line. Yeah, so it's been reliable. I'm getting 31 miles per gallon. That's about like 60% highway driving, 60% city, 40% highway. Great miles per gallon. I get like 370, 380 miles to a tank in this car, and yeah, it's fun. It's 300 horsepower. My belief, and others will disagree, I really think that's the sweet spot for this car. Before, on the stock turbo, even if you've got ethanol, without ethanol and regular pump gas, you can do 215, 220 horsepower. Even with ethanol, you can get up maybe to 230, but that's still slow. And not to diss people that have a stock, because my car was stock for the first 2 years I owned it. It's got 30,000 miles now. I bought it at 4,000 miles, but it's just slow. It feels fast because of the torque, but it's still a slow car, and you're just not going to be able to keep up if that's what you're after with really anything. I mean it's just slow. When I say anything, I mean anything that really is fast. So the speed is an illusion with the stock turbo, no matter what you do to it. A new Honda Pilot will do 0 to 60 in like 6.1 seconds. So do everything you want to the stock turbo. A Honda Pilot will still take you off the line in any gear, in any situation. So if you want speed, and that's really what I was after. I've had some pretty fast cars before this one, faster than this actually. And so I was after a little more, just take that great personality of this car, which is the handling and the economy. And, it's just such a unique little car. It's so much road response, steering response. And, then actually take that, what is the one weakness of this car? And that is power. So the turbo upgrade will take care of that problem. There's a lot of different options out there. I'm not going to discuss them right now, but the one I picked, I got it because I wanted to maintain stock leg spool and still have lots of power. So it does. It pulls like a beast. And you can get up to 270, 280, 300 horsepower depending on fueling. With the turbo upgrade. So. I really feel like 300 is the sweet spot. It's enough to do what you want to do. It's enough to keep up or surpass most cars out there. I took a newer, actually it's a brand new STI 2018, and pulled away from it a few weeks ago in this car. So, you know, it gives it plenty of power, but it's still usable as long as you get the traction control dialed in and you get the right tires. That's really important. I talk about those in other videos. That power will be usable. Really beyond 300, in my opinion, and many will disagree. I think you're at that point. You've got power that's you know, not usable on the street. It may get great dyno numbers, but you know, I know some guys that have 330 horsepower, 350, 380. You know, these are some of the newer turbos coming out for this car, which scares me a little bit because number one, you get 330, 350 horsepower. Even in third gear, when you floor it, you lose traction. And I don't mean for a second, I mean through most of the rev range. And it's just pointless on the street to have that kind of power, in my opinion. It just becomes unusable. And to do what I've done to this car, you know, what I've done, the upgrades, I've done the labor myself, but the upgrades are only about $2,000 or $3,000 depending on what route you go. You know, versus, you know, putting $10,000, $15,000 into a, you know, a turbo kit that's going to get you 350, 380 horsepower. And, you know, then you have power you can't use, and then you've got to, you know, you're probably going to break your clutch and your transmission at that point, and just the money, you know, it's the law of diminishing returns. Again, in my opinion, you know, at some point you just got to be happy with what can this car do. And guys, the bottom line with this car is, you know, if you know the car at all, is if it had all-wheel drive, it would be unstoppable, but it doesn't, and it's not going to. So if you want that kind of car, you know, power that's going to beat, you know, keep up with a Corvette, or, you know, to 80 miles an hour. I mean, you know, to be able to keep up with a newer GT, you know, Mustang, or, you know, an Audi S3 or something like that, you really need a Golf R. You can get the APR mods. It's got all-wheel drive, and it will handle every bit of the power. This car, again, above 300 horsepower, it gets out of control. There are people putting super wide tires and all that on it, but again, you know, financially, I just don't see that that's worth doing to a Fiesta ST. I've got about $25,000 in this car total. That's purchase price and all the mods, every mod I've done. Yeah, for 25,000 bucks, man, I mean, you got a reliable car that gets 31 miles per gallon, 38 in the highway. It's got 300 horsepower. You know, again, it'll keep up or pass most stuff out there. You know, and that's a good deal. I mean, is it the fastest thing on the road? I think that's where humility comes in, and you need to realize, you know, a new Honda Accord Turbo 5-speed is about as quick as this car. So, you know, you got to be humble there. You're like, you don't want to chase numbers and think you're gonna, you know, oh, I'm gonna, you know, pump it up, and, you know, there's so many people doing that to these cars, and in every kind of car, and, you know, it's sort of like, you'll never use that power on the street. You're gonna compromise the overall, you know, build of the car and break something. And, you know, you're just throwing your money into something. If I wanted that kind of power, I would have bought a Golf R, you know, and modded it. But you're talking double the price. It's way nicer, but I'm going to tell you, I've driven both, and this car is way more fun. So, yeah, I'm going to keep this car probably forever. And it's been awesome. 300, again, is the place to go, I feel, for my goals, daily driving. So I hope that helps. If you're interested in these cars, it's my perspective. There's lots of them out there, but it's my perspective, and love this car. Leave comments and questions if you have them. I appreciate you watching, and peace to you today. Enjoy the day.